Thanks to Bose for sponsoring this video. So today we are talking about The Red Notice. The other Netflix action movie with a star-studded cast that definitely needed a few more script passes and is trying to get by on the merit of actor charm alone. The Gray Man. But you know what? This one is a lot better. I couldn't even finish Red Notice because Gal Gadot's acting was... I've realized that Wonder Woman is really the only thing she can pull off, except for the whole like, Kal-El, no! But you know, the first Wonder Woman, great. But yeah, I ultimately decided that Red Notice wasn't worth my time around the holiday season, and that's pretty sad because, like, you guys see what I cover on this channel. There's not a lot that isn't worth my time. I also decided to go with this one over Persuasion, so the Anne Elliot Jane Austen fans wouldn't come for my head, because based on the 30 minutes of that movie I saw, I thought her character was fun. Sorry, I've not read Jane Austen's complete bibliography. It's a one single stain on my literary history. So I went with The Gray Man. It narrowly won my poll, and if you don't know what poll or polls I'm talking about, occasionally when I'm in a pickle, I turn to Twitter and Instagram to get an opinion and from you guys, and sometimes I even listen to it. But The Gray Man is also based off a book that has some pretty high acclaim and a decent-sized fan base. So let's just check a little excerpt here from the top Goodreads review from 10 years ago now. Are you a Jane Austen fan? Are you looking for a calm, introspective book that will be like a peaceful walk by a gentle stream? Maybe a literary novel beloved by the critics? Then move on and have some Earl Grey with the other sissies, men and women who like action only here. I thought that was a very impassioned review for this action novel, and I think that definitely sets the tone. This is actually an entire series of action novels that kind of follow in the same spirit as your Bourne stories, your Clancy's, your Jack Reachers, over-the-top action thrillers with espionage tossed in. And fans of this book also don't seem super stoked on this adaptation, though I do think it's really funny that this 10-year-old review mentioned Jane Austen as if it knew that these two movies adaptations would be releasing within a week of each other on the same streaming service. Uncanny. And just reading the comparisons between the two, the movie took a lot of liberties that really just makes for a weak plot placed around a series of some really good and some not so good action sequences and a lot of fun quips between Ryan Gosling and Chris Evans. And I love arrogant bad guy Chris Evans. He was amazing as Captain America, but he just eats these smug, arrogant roles up. All I could think while watching this movie was that it felt like this was a movie his fictional Scott Pilgrim character would make. This feels like Lucas Lee deciding to be a baddie for once. And I'm sure the quality of this movie is pretty on par with that.
The next click you hear is me hanging up. The one after that is me pulling the trigger.
And honestly, I hope that he and Gosling got their coin. They deserve it. Now, before I watched this, I had a look at the Rotten Tomatoes score, as I often do, and I am always just so fascinated by the movies that get this kind of split. We got a 48% from critics and a 91% from audiences. But also, it makes sense. This is the type of movie that you toss on over a weekend while you're eating or relaxing. You might be browsing your phone or kind of doing some tidying. Maybe it's the only thing the whole family can agree to watch, and as long as you don't think too hard, it's gonna be an enjoyable watch if you like action movies with some comedy tossed in. Do we deserve better? Absolutely. Is this some kind of affront to cinema? No. But if you do decide to watch it in the comfort of your own home, you deserve the full audio experience from today's sponsor, Bose. So Bose brought me out to the 2022 San Diego Comic-Con to experience the House of the Dragon activation. Bose provided all the sound and sound sensory elements, and it was super immersive. Crackling flames, chirping hatchlings, grumblings of the dragons hidden deep within the castle. The whole place just felt like it was breathing as you walked through. It felt alive. Which is why I have to do this as a voiceover. I couldn't overpower the power of the Bose. So after meeting our dragon keeper, we got escorted to a room where we got to pick our own dragon egg. Except, I guess not that one, because someone else grabbed it first. But yeah, dragon eggs crackling on a flame. It was beautiful. We got to take our little egg pals on a journey through the altar room, aka the Room of Giant Dragon Skull, aka Balerion. Truly, it was massive.
The power of the Targaryens lies with the dragons themselves. Balerion was the oldest creature.
Then we were told to hug our eggs and give them some TLC before heading off to try to hatch them in the volcanic hot springs. So we gently laid them inside. Okay, that person wasn't so gentle, but I'm sure it's fine. Then you just started hearing the bubbling of the water, the crackling of the eggs, the chirps of the babies as they hatched. The sounds of the castle started to get more intense, deeper rumblings, louder hissing. The sounds of the dragons got louder and louder as we walked through the den being judged by the dragons themselves. And as we passed through, proving ourselves as worthy Targaryens, we ended up in the throne room where it was my and 11 other fine guests' time to take my rightful place on the Iron Throne. Yes, royalty suits me. And then finally into the final room to get our hatched dragons. I tried to name mine Kevin, but it kept trying to dragonify the name, but always Kevin in my heart. Overall, this was a super cool experience. I am still super into the world that Game of Thrones built, so it was really amazing to have such an immersive experience designed around the new show, and I can honestly say that without the sound design, it wouldn't have had half the impact. So if you want sound to reign in your life, make sure you go with Bose. I use a Bose speaker every time I shower. They're noise-canceling headphones when I travel, a Bose soundbar for my TV, much like this one, but significantly less cool looking. So thanks again so much to Bose for the experience and sponsoring this video. In terms of how the movie was actually put together, I think a lot of it is shot in a really fun way, but then there's just kind of these like unintentional or weird drone shots. They kind of seem like they were added to add some kind of like dynamic motion to things, but it kind of feels more like the bird's eye view, like if you have something kind of like weaving through people and you're seeing through that thing's eyes, it feels like that more so than like unique camera tracking. Some of the effects themselves look pretty rough, which is always like a great argument for more practical effects with like really limited CG usage. It just ends up feeling a lot more natural. And other than Gosling and Evans, some of the performances in this are super weak. Billy Bob Thornton did the best he could with what he was given, but he was just very underutilized. And while Ana de Armas was great, you could remove her character from this movie and it would pretty much be exactly the same. But we'll allow it because Ana de Armas is great and she's fun in these action roles, but it almost just felt like she wasn't a character until they found out they could get her and then just like wrote her right on in. And now in this exact moment when I'm typing this, which was actually yesterday, I feel vindicated in that assessment because her character, Dani Miranda, is an original character written for the movie. I'm sure it wasn't actually a last minute writing, but it proves that she was not originally supposed to be around. But sadly, some of the worst characters seem to be sticking around for the potential sequels, so yay! But the movie starts back in the golden age of 2003 when music was butt-rocking and I was entering the highs of Freaky Friday and Mean Girls. Ryan Gosling, aka Cortland Gentry, is in a Florida prison, and that seems like the most fake Southern name I could have possibly wished into existence, but that's fine. It won't be his name going forward. And Billy Bob Thornton here, aka Fitzroy, shows up with an offer to commute his sentence. He can walk out of prison today if he agrees to work for the CIA as an assassin. I guess he's in prison for killing someone that makes the CIA feel like he'd be the perfect agent to exist in the gray zone of the Sierra program, just killing people as needed. So I'm thinking he must have taken out some kind of threat or individual outside the scope of the law that would have posed a major threat, but not enough that it would have counted as self-defense. But no, nothing in the murder he committed, which we will get to, would suggest that he has it in him to be a regular CIA hitman. In the book, I guess he killed like 3 people, so they're a little bit more like, yeah, this guy, it checks out. But it immediately cuts to the far more depressing year of 2021, 18 years later, in Bangkok, which is when we are lightly introduced to Ana de Armas' character. And look, I love a lady in a blazer. I love a lady in a full suit. Also, clearly love the floral pattern, but this one is rough. This looks like an oversized clown suit. Her tiny little head is popping out, looking like the block outfits from the I Love It music video. Is that an exaggeration? Little bit. Either way, seems bulky. Regardless, she hands Ryan Gosling a water gun, which is apparently the invite to a private party, aka the kill room. This whole thing kind of felt weird and like they didn't really know how to start the movie, but whatever. Apparently he is only known as Sierra 6, and he's gonna take out the target it before a transaction can go down. And I finally realized why this gun was obscenely extra. It sees through the ceiling. Apparently he's gotta hit the target from like 2 floors below. But before he can take the shot, a kid steps in the way and he just won't do it even with collateral clearance. So we've got a moral murder for hire on our hands here. So instead he pulls the fire alarm and starts popping the security guards one by one with a chopstick, which honestly I thought was pretty badass. I was a fan of that. But obviously these are all trained individuals and shit hits the fan, and luckily Anna is here to save his ass. But he finally gets to the target and they start fighting in the fireworks display, which is just funsies all around. And his target is Sierra 4, also hired by Fitz, trained in the same spot, and tells him not to trust Carmichael, aka the guy that assigned him this kill. Six still stabs him though, but before he dies, he manages to hand off a necklace that apparently has something Carmichael wants inside it, and warns Six that he'll probably be next. So Miranda shows up and confirms that apparently they don't actually know each other, but it seems like they do. Either way, he bails with the necklace, which immediately has Carmichael on his ass because he's a shitty liar for a CIA agent and they know that he was wearing a necklace that is now gone, and realizes that there's a little USB chip hidden inside it, but of course all the info is encrypted except this picture of Carmichael, so obviously it's info on him. But because he lost him and whatever this information is clearly very sensitive, Carmichael turns to Lloyd Hansen to hunt down Six. And apparently he has a little bit of a reputation.
He has methods.
Sociopathic method.
And then for some reason, Carmichael sends Suzanne here to assist. She will spend most of the movie just freaking out about everything he's doing with no ability to stop it and just no actual input or effect until the very end of the movie. Something else I noticed is that it seems like there were scenes shot that should have been their own thing, but in order to condense for time, because this is already over 2 hours long, they would just use it as some kind of B-roll as a character was talking about something they would do, but it wasn't in the same cool way as like a heist movie does it. For example, Lloyd here says that they have to find something that Fitz loves and squeeze. And as he's saying that, you see some young girl being kidnapped instead of just having that be a separate scene. But my favorite part is that this isn't even someone related to Six because Sierra team have no available background files. It's Fitz's niece. Honestly, the closest point of contact for this dude was his retired boss's niece. There is a reason for it, which we'll get to, but just at the face value, sad. Now obviously, because he loves his niece, Fitz, who had in fact helped Six escape Thailand, gives his guys the order to kill him, but at least he was kind enough to ask them to make it painless. But this is Ryan Gosling here, future Ken doll, man of jazz. Of course he's prepared. We get a fun little fight sequence with a smoke bomb before obviously the plane gets shot open so people can fly out the side into the propellers, blow up the engines, and then the whole thing just starts falling apart, which is all obviously leading up to a sick plane jump. But it's all good. Gosling's just gonna jump on him in midair and make him hang himself with the parachute. It's so goofy. Honestly, Uncharted is still the champion for outrageous plane escapes this year though. Sorry. But Russo's, this is a human. What are you doing? He's not a super soldier. We don't see it, but clearly he manages to ride this dead dude's body to safety. So he calls Fitz, who, while worried about his niece, is happy that Six is still alive, but it's time to talk to Lloyd.
My assistant will get lunch. You like sushi?
No, I'm good. I just had some Skittles.
I am very down for the banter between the two of them, even if it was for a product placement, but big fan. Again, I love asshole Evans. But after this grand escape, Lloyd's calling in every mercenary he knows to hunt Six down, which is when we get a 2-year cut back memory from Six, so we can see that there's a reason why he had an emotional reaction to finding out that Claire had been kidnapped. Honestly, I feel like hitting it with the darn man here with like the, you see, apparently Fitz raised her after her parents died. And for some reason, Carmichael wouldn't provide protection for Claire when Fitz had to go on a mission, so Six got to do a babysitting mission while he was away. So because Fitz is the closest thing Six has to a family, they're basically family. Honestly, so many signs pointing to Carmichael being an absolute shitbag, but sure, we'll just keep going with him. Also, Six has a Sisyphus tattoo that he got in prison, obviously feeling like he was dealt a punishment that felt like pushing a boulder uphill with no end in sight.
Did he deserve it?
Probably.
But honestly, the CIA fate after prison seems like it would tie more into that because that is literally the never-ending job that you basically do until you die. But it turns out that Claire here has a pacemaker because of a born heart defect and it malfunctions, so he takes her to the hospital where he finds out that there's a way to track her pacemaker from anywhere in the world. Is that a thing? I'm gonna Google that I'm gonna Google it now. Okay, so I guess there is actually such a thing as cloud-connected medical devices, so sure, well, it's okay. But as they get back to the house, all the cameras go out and it turns out that someone was planning to assassinate Fitz. He does end up clocking the threat and takes it out very quickly, but then just like tells her to go back to bed without checking if there's anyone in the bedroom, but basically says that just like her heart issues are just any other Thursday, murder is just another Thursday for him. But we're back on the main timeline. Six gets to Vienna to find a cash stash with access to a guy who can get him a new identity and track down the pacemaker. And he tracks down that pacemaker so fast, he does it in the time it takes Gosling to clean up. But the way he gets into this dude's apartment is so comical. They all speak in different codes so they know that it's legit, and it just gets down to the guy eventually saying this.
You seem like a man who wants your shirts done right.
Oh, it's so funny. Then we get a little insight into childhood trauma, because obviously gotta have some of that. We see his dad burning him with a car lighter to teach him how to fight through shock. In the books, his dad was some kind of agent operative too, so I guess, but I did not get the impression that that was the case in the movie. Just like a random psycho dad. Just tossing in the entire kitchen sink here. I wouldn't be surprised if we found out that Lloyd's mommy only gave him attention when he acted out, and that's why he enjoys torturing people. But it's time to take his new passport picture, and this is obviously a trap. The over-focus on making sure he steps on the carpet, asking him to come closer. Six even visibly gets sketched out and still doesn't move to avoid this trap door. Obviously, this guy saw the underground call for a hit on Six. Now, if you're wondering about Ana de Armas, don't worry, her character Miranda is still around. Apparently, the full name is Danny Miranda, but her career is now at risk because Carmichael accuses her of helping Six escape. Goes on to explain that the entire Sierra program was a failure, they'd all died or gone back to prison, and Six was following the pattern, the last of the dirty half dozen. Damn, man, you made it sound like it was some massive large-scale failure. It was only 6 people? Whatever, back to Six, who manages to break a water pipe and make a tiny explosive to burst his way out of the hole. But then Lloyd kills the guy that tipped him off. Is that regular behavior? How are you ever going to leverage your criminal underground if you kill people that help you just for asking for their pay? But now it's fight mode. Oh my god, it's Jason Gosling. Oh my god, it's Ryan Bourne. I don't know, you just pick which one you like more.
You must be Lloyd.
What gave it away?
The trash stash. It leans Lloyd.
Again, a huge fan of the quips between these two. It really makes the movie. I don't know if the books had that much comedy going between the two.
Where's the drive? Is that it?
But this is the moment I really felt that Ana de Armas' character was potentially unnecessary, but she does lead to one of the funnier lines after she tranks Lloyd in the butt.
Why are you walking like that?
Because I got shot in the ass, Suzanne!
Cinema! So originally she wants to take him to Carmichael to clear her name, but once he explains the flash drive and how he sent it to the UK agency chief Margaret Cahill, now retired in Prague, they set off to Prague. Clearly Carmichael rubbed her the wrong way, so yeah. So they find out that the files are evidence of Carmichael's extrajudicial activities with using Lloyd as a murder torturer. He's essentially been using the CIA as a personal hit squad. Four uncovered it, and instead of immediately exposing him, tried to sell the information, leading to his death. But obviously Lloyd's mercenaries catch up to them, so Cahill sneaks them both out before blowing up her entire apartment to kill the ones that broke in. I like that they made sure to let us know that she was dying of cancer so we wouldn't feel too bad for the sacrifice.
Did we just kill Margaret Cahill?
Well, yes and no. So this just descends into a massive cop and SWAT versus mercenary fight where Six gets hit by a car before they cuff him to a bench and he's just like fine after being dazed for a couple seconds. Like the windshield smashed, people. Whatever, big fan of how Suzanne is just now realizing that they're all going to jail. Also big fan of how people are just getting shot left, right, and center, and Six is just like shuffling around the bench with the handcuffs. Like at least Lloyd makes the quip about how hard could it possibly be to shoot one guy.
Extra $10 million to the first guy to put a bullet in this Ken doll's brain.
Ooh, they said it. They said the thing. See obnoxious hair Gosling in Barbie 2023. So he finally just shoots the handcuff to escape. escape so he could get creative with these tram kills, which is right when Miranda shows up with the bulletproof Audi. Some really creative action shots in here though, like Six using reflection to clock the baddies instead of waiting for them to make the first moves. But probably a little bit too intense with this finisher. This is definitely one of those ones where I was all like, you know what? Something a little bit simpler with better looking practical effects would have gone a long way. But at this point, Lloyd has effectively started some kind of weird international war with the Prague authorities.
This will be taught in schools of exactly what not to do in asset retrieval.
What I do can't be taught.
You mean just spending a bunch of money to have people shoot guns and basic torture? Yeah, seems like a real hard skill set. But instead of sending in multiple teams, he turns down to one man, the lone wolf. I wrote that originally as the LOAN wolf, like loaning money wolf, and I really wonder if somebody already has that business, like the lone wolf will hunt you down the best loans from the sheep trying to hide them. It appears that it does exist and they are not taking full advantage of the premise. But he shows up all sneaky, stabs through Six's hand, obviously he'll be fine. The wolf immediately manages to grab the necklace, and I'm just confused as to why that wasn't better hidden and tucked in your shirt or just hidden somewhere else better on your body. Just like conceal the drive in a different location so that like the necklace is bait. Whatever, there's a bit of a scuffle, but Wolf grabs it, jumps out the window, and makes off with it with no real inconvenience because Six doesn't throw loaded guns, so Miranda couldn't take the shot.
You gave me an empty gun?
Who throws a loaded gun?
So they rush to head him off, but have to stop pretty quickly to patch up Six first, which is when he explains that he went to prison for killing his dad for beating his brother because he was obsessed with trying to make them macho men. And if he kept going at it to the extent he was, it was gonna be the brother dying instead. But what about that would denote that you had it in you to be a CIA, no questions asked killer? Again, he killed 3 people in the book, makes a little bit more sense, but like, you killed your father in a crime of protective passion and now we think you'll be okay just killing anyone in the world? Whatever, they're off to Lloyd's compound. Armas basically becomes Black Widow here, RPGing her way through Lloyd's men as a distraction so Six can get to Fitz and Claire.
Shit.
But while escaping, Fitz gets hit and forces Six to take Claire and go, leaving him with a grenade.
You do this.
So there goes any hope of having Billy Bob Thornton around for the potential sequel. I am upset. Now at this point, the lone wolf has re-retrieved the necklace after the explosion, fights Miranda for a bit. There's a cool wire back and forth with them that I liked choreography-wise. But then he's just like, yeah, you know what? Just take the necklace. These aren't honorable people. I'll murder, but I absolutely draw the line at child murder and abduction. Well, it looks like someone's gearing up to get a spin-off because of course, they are planning to turn this into a Gray Man universe. But the grenade was not enough to take Lloyd down. Honestly, I feel like the level of confidence within Chris Evans' character is enough to shield him from things that no ordinary man could ever handle. So he's on Gosling's ass so fast, manages to grab Claire in the most comical way.
Please don't shoot! Look what you did to my hand!
Then drags her into a maze. Obviously, they find each other pretty quickly, and then Lloyd flare guns Claire's face, which I was like, good job for committing to that movie. But then just lets her go, because he wants to go toe-to-toe with Six. No guns, just a good old-fashioned beatdown. But Miranda's already telling him if he just kind of keeps pushing him in the circle, she'll have a completely clear shot on him. But no, he has to tell Claire that this is just another Thursday, so she'll leave and he can play out some Fight Club fantasy. Dude, just let Miranda take the shot, you dumb fuck. Like, yeah, it's a badass fight, but it's completely unnecessary and actually leads to some absolute bullshit. They're going back and forth pretty consistently, but just as he's about to strangle Lloyd, Suzanne shoots him. Then gives Six a little shot too, so he's more compliant. So now I guess the plan is to pin everything that's happened on Lloyd, but then still send Six back to prison for reasons. It's all very dumb. I hate it, and I hate her. Very annoying character that I feel like we're trapped with. She also somehow has the necklace now. I guess she must have cut off Miranda somewhere along the line. Whatever. Cuts to 2 weeks later. And once again, we have a Russo cameo. He's a committee member ruling that they'll be exonerated criminally because their stories all match up. Everything Carmichael was doing gets pinned on Lloyd. He destroys the drive with any evidence. Miranda goes along with it, presumably to save her own ass, but if anything happens to Claire, she'll spill the beans. That's a surefire way to get murdered. Because yeah, Suzanne essentially has Claire held captive to be used as leverage. much? I am feeling a severe lack of badass justice here. But 6 obviously manages to escape. Claire walks into her room with the note on her record to play it loud so she won't have to hear him murder a bunch of people. And that's it. He just drives her off. You don't see the baddies go down. You get no proper reaction to him busting out. No one gets exposed. It's BS. Now Claire's just on the run with him too. And then it ends in this like really awkward looking like pewter cast outro that is supposed to make them look like gray men. I don't know. This just seemed like a very poor use of their budget. But I'm guessing there's no solid resolution here because they are planning sequels. Carmichael apparently is only actually introduced in the 2nd book and Suzanne doesn't show up until the 5th. So they just introduced her super early and now we're stuck with them and they suck. I hope to hell they find a way to bring Evan's character back, even though I'm sure he is actually dead, but he was really the only compelling villain in this entire story. They do mention something about the old man who, I guess, spoilers, is Carmichael in the book, but it seems like they're gonna switch that up now. I also assume that at some point his brother is gonna pop up in this series. Who knows? I'm tired. I was mostly on board with this until that nothing burger of an ending. What the hell? And so much of this just feels like a mess. It just feels really inconsistent in a lot of ways, and I just feel like it needed like a couple more passes on that script instead of having like people trying to condense down a handful of plot points across multiple books in a series into something that like coherently works as a standalone film while leaving room for sequels. I'm just glad they didn't force a romantic angle demographic. Like, I'm sure it'll happen eventually if they keep going with these, but that always pulls me out of something being like a really good action movie. Like Top Gun Maverick is made significantly worse by slamming in that romance plot, in my opinion. I would have done away with the whole thing. But yeah, the gray man, I think this kind of points out a lot of the areas where the Russos excel and a lot of areas where the Russos don't necessarily excel. I will always appreciate them for what they did at Marvel. I also appreciate that they fund smaller creators into making really amazing movies. Like, they are in large part a reason why Everything Everywhere All at Once was able to be created. And I think it's really cool that they give back in that way. So no hate here. I just think that this could have been a little bit better. It looks like we are probably going to be getting an entire little universe of these movies if they kind of keep on with it without that banter between Gosling and Evans, or at least Gosling and someone. That's half the enjoyment of this movie right there. So interested to see how that'll continue on. But that is going to do it for today's video. Thanks again to Bose for sponsoring and bringing me out to my first ever Comic-Con ever. It was super amazing. It was a great experience. So thank you so much. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks as always to my Patreon supporters. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Leave a like on the video if you're into that kind of thing. All my social medias are listed down below. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. I'm mostly okay, and we'll catch you all later.